This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 169 with Joette Calabrese.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
Welcome back to the podcast. If this is your first time here, you're in for a treat today. Or maybe a better way to say it is you're about to get out of a real pickle. We're diving into headaches with Joette, from the extremely painful ones that knock you flat to that dull ache after a long day in the sun. But even more importantly, we'll hear exactly what Joette did to finally relieve her headaches for good. Now, I know most of us listening have dealt with a headache at some point, even if it was just a mild one. But Joette, earlier you were sharing how we can approach different types of headaches in a smarter way. So can you start by explaining what you mean by different kinds of headaches?
Oh, absolutely, Kate. Headaches come in all shapes and sizes: dull, throbbing, sharp, stabbing, tight band-like pressure around the head, pain behind the eyes, or sometimes a heavy squeezing sensation. And then there are migraines, which are in a league of their own. So let me clarify the difference between a regular headache, even a really painful sinus one, and a true migraine. Now, migraine is far more than just a bad headache. It often brings, debilitating, throbbing pain, sometimes on one side, sometimes both sides, that can leave you in bed for days. Lights, sounds, movement, or certain triggers can worsen it, along with nausea, vision changes, even fatigue or irritability. So whether it's a headache or a migraine, the key is to investigate before reaching for the homeopathic medicine. We want to try to find the cause if possible. If we can't pinpoint it exactly, at least narrow it down to the specific symptoms, because sometimes the cause can give us very good information.
So Joette, you're saying that headaches don't usually just appear out of nowhere.
Well, sometimes it feels like that. But if you look a little closer, there's often a trigger. Not always, but often there can be. It can be a long day in the sun, sudden weather or pressure changes, too much screen time, dehydration, or even stress. Or let me also add food intolerances that you hadn't considered in the past. So if the cause isn't obvious, then focus on the symptoms instead. Where exactly is the pain? What does it feel like? Is it only at night, or in the temples, or dull pressure behind the eyes? We often slap the broad label headache on everything and stop there, because most people are accustomed to just simply taking a drug for just pain, regardless of where it is and how it presents. But these details that I'm listing really matter in homeopathy.
So I'm wondering if the cause and symptoms are the real clues to how we look at this. I think that's really smart. Joette, why does the type of headache even matter? Isn't it all just the same thing in the end?
Not really. Once you understand the difference between migraines, certain common headaches, their causes, their unique symptoms, everything changes. So let me share two personal stories that show the cause made all the difference in the pain I experienced. The first one was years of barometric pressure headaches back in Buffalo, New York, that I suffered over a long period of time, as I said, for years. Every time the barometric pressure changed, the weather shifted, I'd get these intense sinus headaches. The pain would start above my eyes and spread, feeling like, a vice grip, squeezing my sinuses and my whole face. It was miserable and predictable with the forecast, but only once I recognized that. I never realized that. And living on the Great Lakes, there was always a barometric pressure change. One was rolling in or one was rolling out. But once they started up, once the headache started, It was practically unstoppable until the pressure changed in the weather. I'd be foggy, irritable, in lots of pain just trying to function. The second time, some 40 years later, was after I moved to Florida. The intense sun and heat led to dehydration headaches that became my new normal. Now, why would I be in the sun? Well, because I made a point of walking on the beach every day. And I also made a point of sitting in the sun every day, in addition to that walking for, 15 minutes, an hour, but you can't sit much longer in certain times of the year. And I would sit in the sun without sunscreen, I might add, my friends. I'd end up with that dull, however, exhausting ache, a heavy draining and often hitting in the late afternoon or evening after having been outside in that draining sun. It felt like my whole head was worn out and it kept coming back no matter what I did.
Oh, that sounds miserable, Joette. I actually can't imagine dealing with nagging headaches like that all the time. I don't get headaches, which I'm thankful for. So tell me, how did you make it through those periods and what changed? You don't still suffer from headaches today, right?
No, I don't. So the first headache was before I knew enough about homeopathy. I thought the answer was over-the-counter pain relievers or even prescriptions. And now I never got a prescription. I'd only lived on, I believe the medicine that I used on a regular basis was a cover-up. It was a Band-Aid. And it was 222s is what they were called. And I used to go to Canada to buy them because you couldn't buy them over the counter in New York State. And they had codeine in them. So I would take a codeine drug every time the barometric pressure came in. Now, this was a good 40 some years, something like that. And it would dull the pain. And I would relieve the pain actually for hours or even a day if I was lucky. But the headaches always came roaring back once the next barometric pressure change came back in again. So it was a haphazard cycle, not a real solution. But once I started to learn a little bit about homeopathy, I realized that there are specific medicines that matched the headaches perfectly, something that I hadn't noticed up until that time. The first one, and I've talked about this so many times, perhaps this is old news to some of you, is the medicine calibicromium. Sometimes people call it calibic. And that's for those extreme sinus headaches triggered by barometric pressure changes. So the second medicine that I used specifically for those dull, exhausting headaches caused by dehydration was China, China, which is also sometimes called cinchona. Both of those names are used for the same medicine. So China, and I used it specifically for when I got those headaches right as they happened. And it was often because I was dehydrated. I had not been drinking enough water and had not been adding anything to my water, such as salt.
So that was when you were out in heat and just
perspiring.
Yes, right.
And it didn't take me long to figure this out. Once I realized, and Perry and I kind of watch each other about this, because if we find that we're exhausted throughout the day, we're thinking, oh, yeah, of course, we're not rehydrating. We're not drinking enough water with electrolytes or with salt in it after having walked on the beach in that hot weather, or after having sat out in the sun for 15, 20 minutes in the afternoon. So these beautiful medicines were the real game changers for me. They didn't just mask the pain. They spurred my body to address the underlying issue and then just relieved it once and for all. Now, as far as the calibicromium is concerned and those extreme headaches triggered by barometric pressure changes, I simply have not had them again in many, many decades. But the China medicine, and that medicine specific for dehydration and headaches that address that need for salts and water, I still have to remind myself every once in a while, because I still insist on walking in the hot sun and sitting in the sun later in the afternoon. So those can be brought on time and time again if I'm not careful.
Yeah, I love how homeopathy helps to truly address those conditions and heal our bodies, and it doesn't just cover up symptoms. But I want to ask you, what if someone's headache cause or symptoms aren't exactly like the ones you mentioned today? Because as you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different causes of headaches. So what if someone's headache isn't like the ones that you just mentioned and they're different?
Well, there are different homeopathic medicines for different headaches. It all depends on matching the unique cause and symptoms, and sometimes the name of the condition too. Exactly, the name that it is a migraine. So I would say that if someone is already familiar with homeopathy, they can explore the repertory, the materia medica. But if you're newer to this, a great starting point is at my website at joettecalabrese.com, and you just type in headache in the search bar in the top right corner, and you'll find helpful blogs like Don't Forget Sepia for Headaches is one title. Another one is April Showers Bring Sinus Headaches is another title. And so these are all available for your use at, of course, no cost. And so I also cover headaches in greater depth should this information not be of use to you. Because as I said, there are a myriad of different types of headaches. So there's also Escape from the Prison of Chronic and Acute Pain, which is an in-depth course which covers headaches as well as many other kinds of pain that people suffer. So if you want to learn how to use more of these medicines and how they're specific to certain kinds of headaches and certain symptoms related to these headaches, this might be where you need to go next.
Homeopathy is so empowering, and it shifts our mindset from feeling helpless to feeling hopeful. As we hear from so many of your students, Joette, that their fear just melts away.
Yes. And here's the beautiful truth. Our body is designed to heal. It's always looking for homeostasis. So headaches, even the stubborn recurring ones that have plagued one for years, does not mean that it's a lifelong sentence. When we learn to listen closely to the symptoms, pay attention to them, and match them with the right homeopathic medicine, it gives the body that gentle nudge that it needs to do what it was made to do, and that is to shift outside of that suffering. So I guess the upshot is if someone is suffering, I urge them to take heart. Relief doesn't have to be complicated, nor even expensive. It can be simple, natural, and restorative. So start paying attention to the patterns. Trust the process. And remember, freedom from pain is possible. One well-chosen homeopathic medicine at a time. So you've got this. Your body is stronger and wiser than you may realize right now. So I guess I'll end by saying, thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to send this podcast to someone you know who suffers from headaches, at least to get them started. And until next time, stay curious, friends, stay observant, and stay mighty. It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free without affiliates or advertising here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday Night Lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse joetteslearningcenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.